Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Congressman Barry Moore wants to punish Alabama. Also, the V Team takes a look at an alleged virtual school scam. And some folks are coming after Governor Kay Ivey.
Meow.
Enough said. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter for APR. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
So, it's another week with the legislature, but one of the top stories of this week is a story, Josh, that you broke over a year ago. The U.S. Attorney, FBI, the Department of Education, they announced 6 individuals were arrested for fraudulent activities, allegedly, where they allegedly stole money through a virtual school scam in Limestone County and Athens. Josh, you broke the story about a year ago. You were on top of it. Tell us what this was about.
Well, it was about greedy educators, first of all. I mean, it's hard to fathom the fact that you've got a guy, especially Trey Holiday in Athens, who was one of the people indicted, making $250,000 a year, and a great job, fully vested in the retirement system in this state, and that wasn't enough for him. So he and Tom Sisk, who was the superintendent at Limestone County, allegedly set up a system by they went through consulting companies, one of which was owned by Trey Holiday's wife, who was also indicted, and the owners of the 3 consulting companies were also indicted, and they set up a system where they were going into private schools, specifically in the Black Belt region, and telling these people that they could dually enroll their students in Limestone and Athens, which they would then count them as full students in those systems, getting the full per pupil dollars from the state and federal government, and then they were kicking back some incentives to the private schools. So essentially what took place here is these people in Athens and Limestone County gave a bunch of laptops that could have gone to their kids, to private school kids in the Black Belt region, and some other money, and they also made a boatload of cash themselves.
I mean, Susan, just when you think education in Alabama can't get any worse, we have a scheme that, Josh, this is millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, it's over $6 million.
Yeah. Over $6 million, Susan. I have no words.
I have no words for it either. I mean, our students are suffering badly enough as it is under the broken system we have. And for these people to find these kind of loopholes and go in and essentially steal education from children, it's just outrageous.
But Josh, they found, like Susan said, a loophole, and we'll go with the allegedly.
Yeah.
They committed these crimes that took money out of the education trust fund and also denied other children money, the way I read it.
Yeah, that's true, and I think maybe the worst part about it is the virtual school bill was a good bill. It's a bill supported by a lot of public school people, including the AEA, and the purpose of that is written by Dick Brubaker, who's had a big supporter of public education in the state, and the purpose of it was to try to get money back into our public schools because they had been so underfunded, and they'd had so many problems over the course of the last several years, obviously. And so this was a way to get private kids who were going to private school and who were being homeschooled, to get them back into these schools, even if virtually, and to give those systems that set up good virtual schools the per pupil dollars so they could get money back into their classrooms and stuff. And so they exploited the good deeds of these folks that were trying to help public education.
It's just a shame, but these types of scams, I'm sure we're not the first one to suffer from them, but at such a cost. If all true, let's hope that these people pay a dear price for what they've done to education.
Yeah.
This week in the Alabama House, they passed several criminal justice reform bills, Susan. Surprise, surprise. They're actually taking some of this seriously. A couple of these are real game changers, or at least one of them is. So what's your thoughts on this?
Well, the first one is the community corrections programs, which we've seen in St. Clair County be awfully successful. We're talking about diversion programs like drug court, veterans courts, mental health courts. I know the drug court there has had a 96% success rate, in that these people are not committing other crimes.
Right.
Recidivism, it takes recidivism down dramatically instead of just housing them in jails. Then there's another one where a judge would have the discretion to do a split sentence, and how that split sentence would work. Now, if you remember, Mike Hubbard's on a split sentence. He gets so many years in jail and so many years on a probation. And then also, which I think this is really important, it would require the state to pay counties $20 a day for each inmate they're holding in county jails. Now, Commissioner Dunn tells me that they are not staying in these jails when they're scheduled to go to the state correction facilities. He tells me they're not staying in there more than 30 days. I don't believe that, because I know in our own county we have that problem. And what happens is that the counties end up supporting the state inmates, so and out of their own pockets.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, the first one's not nibbling around the edges. It puts a statewide structure in place for these diversion courts. The other ones are kind of nibbling at the edges, but it does give judges more discretion.
Yeah, I think you're right. The first one, with the structure that's put in place, and basically a requirement for a lot of counties to implement these things that are proven to work. They've worked in a lot of other places and have proven to be very good for the community and for the people that we're sending to prison, which is the goal. I would like to remind everybody that rehabilitation is the goal here. Okay, it's not just simply punitive. I mean, you do punish people, but the goal is rehabilitation. And also. What are they not going to lie about from the Department of Corrections? You ask any sheriff in this state, and they'll tell you that these people have been in these prisons for months and months and months. We got 5,000 or so inmates right now that should be in state facilities that are in county jails right now.
I know.
Yeah, and the county's picking up the tab, and the county doesn't want to pick up the tab.
The county can't afford to pick up the tab.
Yeah. There's one other bill that passed this week, and it's Aniah's law, and it gives a judge a chance to deny bail to folks that are violent, are pending other violent charges. This was passed after 19-year-old college student Aniah Blanchard was murdered by a person who was on bail that had already committed violent crimes. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
If you've been working, you've already proven yourself in ways you may not even notice. Managing your time, communicating effectively, and working as part of a team are key skills that employers value. At alabamaworks.com, you can find out how to build on your experience to up your game and get the job you really want, because it's out there. Start your new success story at alabamaworks.com.
Sponsored by Alabama Works, the Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
A lot can change in 5 years, except those smile lines you treated with Bellafill. Because that's about how long Bellafill will keep them smooth and filled. 5 years. Now you can always look your best without all those injections, appointments, and costs. Bellafill is the only dermal filler that stimulates and maintains collagen growth long term. Now time is on your side.
Welcome back to The Beat, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, this past week, the Alabama Policy Institute, a think tank of sorts in Montgomery, which their chief policy officer is Phil Williams, former state senator, they put out a press release in which they attacked Governor Kay Ivey. Now, the only problem I had with the press release is that they lied. They absolutely lied and twisted Governor Ivey's words. And we know people have tried to attack her in the past, and that's gone about as good as arm wrestling a gorilla. You know, not only are you going to lose, Josh, you're probably going to lose your arm in the process. But they took after Ivey. And Susan, what it was Governor Ivey was on the Don Daly Show on APT TV on Capitol Journal. And she had been praising the legislature for the job they had done in passing bills. And then he asked her about this situation where the legislature is trying to limit her executive power in the case of an emergency.
Right.
And she said, well, it sort of be like, requiring Coach Saban to consult his assistant coaches, consult the faculty, consult the board of trustees, the whole administration of University of Alabama to make a clutch call. That was what she said. They said that she compared herself to the legendary coach Saban and referred to the legislature as her assistant coaches.
She gave a really good example of apparently they failed to absorb it because they didn't listen all the way through it. They like it when they can make her, some pompous, something other, which she's not. What she meant was, you got a snap decision to make. You're going to call everybody, all these people. You're going to call 140 if you're talking to the legislature before you make a snap decision, assuming you can find them, assuming they answer their phone, so that you can get them to Montgomery, to get them into a special session to make a decision that needs to be made right now. That's what she meant, people.
Josh, she also said the reason the executive has an emergency powers is because it's an emergency.
Yeah, I'm first of all going to take issue with calling API a think tank. Listen, this is, and I got to say that there's no chance whatsoever that Nick Saban would hire any of these people to be on his staff. The competency matters in college football in Alabama, if in nothing else. So, look, we're talking about, let me just give you an example of the legislature at work. They couldn't figure out how to open up their own building, okay? They couldn't figure out how to open up the State House. They still don't really know. They had to go in for 2 weeks and try it and then take a week off.
They didn't know how to ask.
This is the people you're going to leave this up to?
They didn't know how to ask the governor for the money that was sitting over there waiting to help them open up their own building.
They really took offense to this last piece where she said, when you're facing a crisis, you don't need to try to be herding. It's like herding turtles.
Yeah, I thought that was a Mitch McConnell shot, is what I thought it was. But, listen, they are, it's purposefully, all kidding aside, it's a purposely slow moving body. Okay, that's what it is. And it's designed to be that way. They're not supposed to do things quickly. If they do it, most of the time, if they've done something quickly, they've done it wrong and illegally. That's right. So, this is the why we do this. And who are these people who are still complaining at this point about what we did to mitigate an emergency, a crisis, a health crisis, in which 500,000 people have died? Who is still complaining?
They're still complaining. But I got to get to these next two because one of them's about what you just said. Richie Whorton. He's a state legislator. He went on the Jeff Poor show, great talk radio show down in Mobile, and he stated that he was pro-choice. He said, "My body, my choice. Your body, your choice."
Oh, wait. But he was talking about the injection.
He was talking about vaccines.
A male getting a vaccine, his body is his own.
Yeah, he says, this bill is about your body, your choice. Now, look, the irony to me here is that a Republican conservative lawmaker is using the pro-choice argument to say that he shouldn't be forced to get a vaccine. Josh, is there any hypocrisy here?
Just go on, because I can go on for days. Just shorten it up for me.
Yeah, from the same body that last year voted to basically require 12-year-olds to carry an incest baby to term. Yeah, you're right. It is quite a bit of hypocrisy. Not to mention the fact that to use this, I know what he's doing. He's trying to use this argument and make it seem as though it's the same argument that abortion rights activists use here, and it's not. It's not even close to that. We're talking about a public health crisis in this country here, in which vaccines right now are our only hope to keep thousands of people per day from dying. We have seen what this vaccine has done. We have seen the positive results from the vaccines that are out there. And the idea that you can't require people to have a vaccine to come into public venues and to be around other people is complete lunacy. It's not even close to the same thing. Listen, if you don't want to take this vaccine and you want to stay your ass at home, stay at home. But listen, don't come out and try to infect everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing with me, you know, I just felt like it was just such a bad argument to make. Congressman Barrymore, though, takes the cake. You know, we never expected him to think or actually do anything in Washington.
I'm sure
except
somebody helped him with this.
But Susan, this past week, he proposed legislation that would punish Alabama. That the legislation would deny Alabama from getting COVID relief money for the state because they locked down.
Right.
Because they sheltered in place. He wants the state of Alabama, who he's supposed to represent, to not get any money because they made a health safety choice.
It's so ridiculous. I mean, come on now. The lockdown did work. It did, stop the disease to some progression. But to deny your own state money from the federal government in a state as poor as Alabama, really?
Yeah. Genius, right, Josh?
Yeah, it's back to the same thing that I said a second ago. Who are these people that are still complaining about this stuff? I mean, you can look at the data from this state when we locked down and what happened to hospitalization rates and death rates at the time. I mean, you can look at it literally and see how they fell. And at this point, in looking around the country and to see what happened, listen, I know it was hard on people. Of course it was hard on people. Nobody wanted to lock down. I didn't like it. Nobody liked it. But we had to do it to save lives.
And Barrymore wants to punish the state of Alabama for doing the best it could do for its people. We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, this past week, the Alabama Senate overwhelmingly approved a medical marijuana bill. It was 28-10. The vote was 21 to 10. They changed that. 21 to 10. Thank you for correcting me. But anyway, it passed at an alarming rate. I mean, the House said they weren't even ready for it yet, but it really got out of the Senate pretty quickly.
Yeah, it did. They waited till Stutz got off the floor, and then they shot that sucker right through. He went to his office to get his notes, and before he could get back, boom, it was done.
Well, Dr. Stutz has been against medical marijuana. Somehow it passed while he was out of the chamber. There you go. I mean, they should pass bills when he's out of the legislature, which would be
that would be
nice. There you go.
Yeah, he's against it. Apparently he thinks it's harmful, although he's killed more people than marijuana ever has. And
no doubt about that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I mean, by accident.
By accident,
but
not taking care of his patients.
I think it's fantastic. The way that this has moved through here, and it's backed by a Republican doctor, in Tim Melson, and I think that it's a good bill, and I think it'll move the state forward and give doctors some options there that they don't normally have.
One of the things that, and we should have realized this even more so during the pandemic. I mean, anxiety, people feeling just totally hopeless, depression, all those things have been so prevalent. And this is another tool that can deal with anxiety. This is also a tool that can deal with people in severe pain, glaucoma, all types of
Cancer.
things. Yeah. People seem to forget that the medicine we take a lot of times comes from plants and other things, chemicals that go into medicine. This is should be medicine. I can argue that it should be legal. So we don't want them to smoke medical marijuana, but let's go give them a gallon of whiskey and see how they react, Josh, right?
Well, not even that. How about let's go give them a bottle of opioids,
there you go.
And see how bad things get for you and the surrounding community. And, when we have an option there that is less addictive, and it's effective, that's proven to be effective, and you have
And
doctors who are prescribing it out and making sure, monitoring what's going on. Why would we stand in the way of this? I've never understood this. Why are we standing in the way of it?
I don't understand it. I mean, I'm not going to go out and try to get a prescription for medical marijuana, but if people need it, I think that's what they need. I mean, the thing is, people need more choices in how to remain healthy. Now,
They do. But it is going to run into some problems, I think, in the House.
Yeah.
They're actually, for the first time I've ever heard, sending it through two committees.
Right.
It'll go through Judy first, that's the Judicial Committee, and then it'll go through Health. It has to pass out of both of those before it can ever get to the floor.
Now, I don't know if that's because Speaker McCutcheon wants to take it past the law enforcement angle in it and the medical angle in it, or what the end game is here. But he did say he was going to take his time, Josh. It's just a matter of we should show compassion for people and give them a way to find better health or ease their pain.
Yes. Yeah, stop coming between people and their doctors.
Yeah. Well, your body, your choice.
That's right.
This was some really good news. We got a report from the Alabama Retail Association, a good organization. They do a great job of representing their folks. That despite the pandemic, holiday sales in Alabama grew by double digits, almost 12%, Josh.
Yeah, it was up. How about that Biden economy already? I mean, it's going great.
Well, Bloomberg has reported the U.S. economy did see a huge uptick over the at the first of the year, and there's prediction among economists that with the stimulus money the new 1.9 billion, a trillion, if that passes, that we could see a record growth in the economy that's unrivaled in the last 40 years.
That's why they call it a stimulus package.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Unless the
they're
economy-
legitimately, no, all kidding aside, there are legitimately predictions out there of an 80s type boom in the economy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there are.
That could stretch on for several years. You know, because of the setup that's here. I mean, it was already a good economy that was created by Obama and Biden to begin with. You know, and Trump didn't do too much to mess it up. And then we're going to get right back into this because of the pandemic. All kidding aside, because of the pandemic, you know, had depressed things. Kind of falsely, you know, and I think you're going to get a nice little kick out of this thing if we can get the $1.9 trillion stimulus passed.
Well,
Plus, remember, a lot of people like us are staying home. We're not going out to eat. We're not going out and getting our hair done or this. So when this finally lifts, my roots, all right. When this finally lifts, you're going to start seeing another boom there.
well, there's trillions of dollars that people are sitting on, trillions of dollars.
Yes.
I want to move on to this next one. There's proposed legislation that would allow no excuse mail-in ballots. Josh, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we've seen in the last election cycle in this state, you can do it. You can do it safely and securely. You saw it all over the country. There were no problems with absentee ballots or mail-in ballots at any state ever. There was no fraud on any sort of scale that would have affected any election, even at the local level. And so you can do all of these things and make it easier for people to vote and cast a vote and have a say in you know who's running for office.
And our Secretary of State is behind the bill. He thinks it's a good idea. He's the guy with his fingers right on all of it.
Well, Secretary John Merrill was listed or mentioned decisively in a Wall Street Journal editorial saying, if you want to know how to run a good election in a pandemic, talk to John Merrill.
Yeah.
Right now, to vote absentee, you can say you're sick or you're out of town. I mean, you know, and some people do that, but a lot of people just don't want to lie about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, that's the only excuses we have now. It seems like kind of silly, you know, really silly.
Is. Yeah, it's 100% silly. It's basically encouraging people to lie.
Yeah. Right.
Which
Because
they don't want to do.
that people don't want to do that, but they want to
Especially
vote.
on a ballot.
But a lot of times it's difficult for seniors. It's difficult for people with disabilities. It's difficult for people they would like to disenfranchise. Actually, Republicans would benefit greatly from a mail-in ballot, no excuse.
Right.
But anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.